Pinterest.
My photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best.
This is a download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
6 Minute English from bbclearningenglish.com.
Hello and welcome to 6 Minute English. I'm Alice.
And I'm Neil. Hello.
Hello, Neil. Have you been shopping?
Yes, I went a bit mad with my credit card, actually.
Gosh, I can see that. But look at all those plastic bags. Why don't you use your own bags?
You know what? I'm going to, because they're now charging 5p per bag.
Don't you follow the news, Neil? It's a recent government initiative, which means a new plan for dealing with something. In this case, to cut the number of thin plastic bags being given away in shops. And the environmental impact of plastic is the subject of today's show.
Is England the first country to charge for these bags, Alice?
No, other countries in the UK started charging a few years ago, and countries around the world, including Bangladesh, South Africa, China and Italy, have actually banned them altogether.
Interesting. But I don't throw my bags away, Alice. I put them under the kitchen sink.
Oh, are you a hoarder, Neil? That means someone who collects large amounts of stuff and can't throw things away.
Maybe I am. But seriously, with the 5p charge, I'm definitely going to recycle my plastic bags.
Good. Now, let me ask you today's quiz question, Neil. How many tons of plastic rubbish from the UK is being sent to China each year for recycling? Is it A, 20,000, B, 200,000, or C, 2 million?
Well, I think it's A, 20,000.
Well, we'll find out if you're right or wrong later on. But first, why are plastic bags bad for the environment?
Because they're too thin, and when they break, all your shopping falls out. That must be it.
No, they take hundreds of years to decompose or break down by natural chemical processes. And also, people don't dispose of them properly. They litter our streets, they clog or block drains and sewers. They spoil the countryside and damage wildlife.
Well, that's quite a list. So, what's the solution then, Alice?
Well, to either recycle or stop using plastic bags. But let's hear about the pharmaceutical company with another idea. This is BBC reporter John Maguire.
At this company laboratory in North London, they're testing how bags made with a special additive break down when exposed to sunlight, oxygen and heat. The technology was discovered by a British scientist in the 1970s and is now sold to around half the world's countries. In some, biodegradable bags are backed by law.
And biodegradable means able to break down naturally in a way that isn't harmful to the environment.
So, adding small amounts of a chemical to the plastic, a special additive, allows the plastic to break down in the open air. But if the technology was discovered back in the 1970s, why aren't these biodegradable bags being used in every country by now?
I have no idea, Alice. Maybe they aren't as strong as non-biodegradable bags. I like a good strong bag myself, you see.
All right. Well, just go and buy yourself some canvas bags, Neil. In fact, I'll get you some for your birthday.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, moving on. Out of around 300 million tonnes of plastic produced every year, some goes in landfill, a place where our rubbish is buried under the earth, but about 10% of plastic ends up in the sea. Let's listen to biologist Dr. Penny Lindeck from Plymouth Marine Laboratory talking about this.
We are already finding that there's a lot of microplastics in the sea and that some of these microplastics are actually being ingested by the zooplankton that live there. We're also concerned this could end up being passed up through the food chain to food which is destined for human consumption, so it could end up on your or my plate.
What are microplastics, Alice?
They're small plastic fragments less than 5 millimetres in size. You find them in cosmetic products such as facial scrubs, shower gel and toothpaste.
And I'm guessing that ingested means eaten.
Yes, the zooplankton, tiny little animals in the sea, mistake the microplastics for food and eat them. And because the zooplankton and humans are in the same food chain, they're at the bottom and we're at the top, but we're still connected, we may end up eating them and the microplastics inside them.
That doesn't sound very tasty. Now, a food chain, by the way, refers to a series of living things where each creature feeds on the one below it in a chain.
Indeed. Okay. Remember my question from earlier? I asked, how many tons of plastic rubbish from the UK is being sent to China each year for recycling? Is it A, 20,000, B, 200,000, or C, 2 million?
And I said A, 20,000.
Yes, but you're wrong, I'm afraid. The answer is B, 200,000 tons, and that statistic comes from the University of Cambridge in the UK.
That's a load of rubbish. I get it, load of rubbish.
Very good.
Can we hear today's words again, please?
We certainly can. Here they are. Initiative. Hoarder. Decompose. Clog. Biodegradable. Additive. Landfill. Microplastics. Ingested. Zooplankton. Food chain.
Well, that brings us to the end of this 6-Minute English. We hope you enjoyed today's environmentally friendly program. Please do join us again soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
My photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best. Flick to link, link to flick.
It's the TED Radio Hour from NPR. I'm Guy Raz. So, are you feeling as anxious as I am about just how divided the world and our country is right now?
If they're illegal, go back. If they're illegal, go back.
You go back.
You're illegal too much.
I see too much of the people coming across and immediately taking welfare and food stamps.
They're mad because they're no longer in the majority. They're mad because they no longer see themselves as the ones in power.
No matter your thoughts about the direction of our country or the planet,
It is shameful to say that the President of the United States encouraged illegal voting.
it feels like it's getting harder to exchange ideas with people who disagree.
One person's fake news is another person's news.
Especially when we can't even agree on a common set of facts.
Violent crime is down. The economy is ticking up.
It is not down in the biggest cities.
Violent crime murder rate is down. National
But what I
statistics.
said is also a fact. Current view is that liberals have a whole set of statistics which
America and Europe and obviously the Middle East and other pockets around the world, they feel incredibly divided right now. And it feels like things aren't getting better.
It sounded like that to me, too.
At this moment, how do we even think about coming together, about reconciling?
Absolutely. Look, guys, don't kid yourself, okay?
When it seems harder than ever to meet in the middle, when there's so much conflict.
It sounded like he said, I'll let you finish, but it sounded to me like he said.
Well, I think conflict is a good thing. I mean, conflict is part of life. It's how things get done. Democracy is conflict.
Bill Urey, he might just be the guy we need right now. He's a mediator.
To me, the real question is not whether to get rid of conflict or not. It's whether we can transform destructive forms of conflict to constructive forms of conflict, like dialogue, like democracy, like cooperation.
Bill wrote what many consider to be the Bible on negotiation. It's called Getting to Yes. And pretty much any major conflict around the world that's happened over the past 40 years.
I worked on the Cold War, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Chechnya, Yugoslavia, Northern Ireland.
Bill has been involved as a negotiator for hire. So given all that stuff you've done, when you look at where we are now in this place and time, with all the division that we are experiencing, is this the worst? Are we at the worst moment ever in your experience?
We're in the most intense moment, but I don't think we're at the most dangerous moment. The most dangerous moment, I believe, was during the Cold War, when at any moment someone in the Kremlin or the White House could decide today's the day, or there could be a crisis like the Cuban Missile Crisis, and you'd put all of life on this planet at risk. So, yes, conflict seems to be at an all-time high, but it is not the most dangerous moment. And so it's messy, but it's an opportunity for us to devise new forms of democratic participation, new forms of negotiation, new forms of conflict resolution. So it's an enormously creative moment as well.
So for everyone who's a bit conflicted about these times we're living in, we're going to seek some reconciliation on the show today and hear ideas about coming together, how we can do it, even when it feels impossible. So if this truly is a moment to reconcile, as Bill Urey suggests, where do we even start?
I've been asking myself that question.
Here's Bill on the TED stage.
And I think I've found, in some ways, what is the secret to peace. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's not even new. It's maybe one of our most ancient human heritages. The secret to peace is us. It's us who act as a surrounding community around any conflict, who can play a constructive role. Because if you think about it, normally when we think of conflict, when we describe it, there's always two sides. You know, it's Arabs versus Israelis, labor versus management, husband versus wife, Republicans versus Democrats. But what we don't often see is that there's always a third side. And the third side of the conflict is us. It's the surrounding community. It's the friends, the allies, the family members, the neighbors. And we can play an incredibly constructive role.
And everyone can play that role. If you care about, not just about winning your point, but you care about the whole, you care about the community, you care about the longer term relationships, you care about the strength of our democracy, then you're a third sider. You care about the whole.
But how do you actually resolve conflict when people on both sides feel like they are the ones who care about the whole?
Well, what you do is you listen behind the positions. You know, people are taking positions on immigration. I want to build a wall. That's a position. You know, I want to allow immigration. That's a position. To understand what are the underlying interests. In other words, what are the underlying fears or concerns? So you'd hear, well, I'm concerned that I might lose a job if someone else takes my job. I'm concerned about safety. And then you say, okay, how can we address those underlying concerns? Then we're both on the same side of the table facing the problem. We're attacking the problem jointly rather than attacking each other. And that's the key, is that reframe from adversarial confrontation to side-by-side, hard-headed joint problem solving.
When we're involved in conflict, it's very easy to lose perspective. The third side reminds us of that. The third side helps us go to the balcony, which is a metaphor for a place of perspective where we can keep our eyes on the prize. Let me tell you a little story from my own negotiating experience. Some years ago, I was involved as a facilitator in some very tough talks between the leaders of Russia and the leaders of Chechnya. There was a war going on, as you know. And the talks got off to a rather rocky start when the vice president of Chechnya began by pointing at the Russians and said, "You should stay right here in your seats because you're going to be on trial for war crimes." And then he went on, and then he turned to me and said, "You're an American. Look at what you Americans are doing in Puerto Rico." And my mind started racing. Well, Puerto Rico, what do I know about Puerto Rico? I started reacting. But then I tried to remember to go to the balcony. And then when he paused and everyone looked at me for a response, from a balcony perspective, I was able to thank him for his remarks and say, "I appreciate your criticism of my country, and I take it as a sign that we're among friends and can speak candidly to one another."
Flick to link, a link to flick. My photo taste is the Pinterest because they are the best.
This is a download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
6 Minute English from BBC Learning.